Hello, welcome back to the internet. Wait, how do I make these again? That's right, it's time for a new Reddit video. It's been almost a year. I'm in a completely new place now. I've seen lots of people request it, and I've kind of teased at it a little bit, so I'm mostly just interested to see what the response will be like for this. So let's just get started with, I can park wherever I want. So I have 10 years of retail experience and 12 years of teaching behind me. I've seen a fair share of entitled people. But this one, oh boy. I live close to the beach, like a 10-minute walk. As you can imagine, with nice days, people park in our neighborhood, which is free, and walk to the beach. There's a lot of paid parking space closer by. Parking is quite enough for the residents, but not for us and tourists who don't want to pay or can't get a parking space closer by. My DH and I decided to remove some poles from our front yard so that I can park my car there. It's small and fits just right, and there's enough room to get the bikes out of the shed and things out of my car. Our front yard is our property, to be very, very clear. Here's where the entitled people come into play. Last weekend the weather was quite nice. Not too cold, lovely sunny weather, and overall pleasant for the time of the year. DH and I took our son out to the petting zoo. We chose to go with my car so that my DH wouldn't have to drive circles around the neighborhood afterwards. After a couple of hours, we come home to find someone parked in our front yard. Yeah, no, not your house, not your yard, so certainly not your parking space. We decide to call the non-emergency line for our local police station to ask for advice. They tell us to call a tow truck and that they would be coming over to supervise if needed. Okay, cool. Tow truck company is called, said they would be over in around 20 minutes. They had some other towing to do. So I decided to stay outside to wait for them. The tow truck company comes, we show proof of residence, and they start to do their job after getting some drinks from me. My mom always taught me to be kind and to look after people, even if they do the jobs you hired them for. They have their drinks, give a business card for their owners just in case, and leave. I go to my car and put it back in our own front yard. Well, 2.5 hours later, our doorbell rings. The entitled people have returned from their extended walk on the beach. I open the door. So the entitled man says, "Hello, our car is supposed to be here." I say, "Yes, it used to be. We had it towed as it was on our property." The woman says, "But there's no sign, so we are allowed to park here." I say, "No, you're not. This is private property, and we don't need to put a place card or something." The guy says, "You little liar. You just stole our car and sold it." I say, "No, I didn't. I have the phone number of the towing company." I try handing them the card. Screaming ensues from the both of them. I'm still standing in the doorway. My husband is throwing anxious glances from through our living room door. I'm 19 weeks pregnant, and he doesn't like the sound of what's happening outside. Then the fun begins. The entitled man tries to force entry to our home. My husband sees this, pushes him out, and closes the door. Afterwards, we dialed for some blue-colored assistance. Meanwhile, we have a pair of banshees at the front door, ringing the doorbell and pounding on the door. A couple of minutes later, blue-colored assistants showed up. My husband was not having me near them again. He went outside where the entitlement came wafting through the air towards us. He explained the whole situation to the cops while the entitled man and woman were screaming things like, "Liar" and "Thief." My husband even called the towing company, and they affirmed they had towed a truck with the given license plate number. It came to a point where the cops gave the entitled couple they had two options. Either leave willingly or leave with a couple of shiny bracelets on. They left, screaming. The tow company called us afterwards, just to tell how it went and ask if we were okay. Told us they had loads and loads of fun by messing with them a bit. 3 times, a guess what is screwed on our side of the shed? Yep, a sticky note saying that our front yard is private property and cars will be towed. I mean, not to say that you're asking for it, but living right next to the beach is going to have its downsides. My kids deserve vitamins more than you. So a short phone call between my mom and my aunt, the entitled mom, recently. So she says, "Sis, we have no more vitamins. You promised to help us. Send us more, please. My kids need them." My mom says, "But I just sent you a bottle cap last week. It should have lasted a month." She says, "A month? You gotta be kidding. With me, my 3 kids, plus my husband, it won't even last a week." My mom says, "But I thought it's only you and your youngest. I only sent you children's vitamins. Your 2 kids are all grown up. They're adults already. I believe the dosage won't be enough for them." My aunt says, "What are you saying? Vitamins are important, specifically in times of pandemic. We all should drink vitamins regularly. You should know that." My mom says, "But we don't even drink vitamins here. Why would we buy all of you vitamins? I only promised to give your kid vitamins to help him because your husband lost his job and I feel pity for the child." She says, "Exactly. My kids deserve to drink vitamins because I'm a responsible parent. Apparently my kids deserve it more than you. Just send us some more, or just wire some cash so I can buy one myself. The one you sent tastes weird." My mom says, "That's because it's children's vitamins. You should have not drank it." She says, "There's no point in arguing with you because you can't understand the importance of vitamins. Whatever, just send us the cash." My mom responds with, "What am I, your personal savings bank?" And she hangs up. I mean, now that they brought it up, this pandemic's been going on for who knows how long and nobody sent me a single vitamin. It's like the world just wants me to die or something. Well, now it's time for... Want me to call the cops? Alrighty. So a bit of backstory on yours truly. I've been working on bar security, aka bouncer, at the same bar for about 3 years. If you ever want to know what it's like to be a bouncer, Think daycare, but at night. And instead of small children, it's adults who revert to children when intoxicated, or even when not intoxicated. Anywho, this night was much like any other night. There's a popular local band playing, so we've got a decent crowd going. The team is keeping their eyes open for anyone passed out, being belligerent, drugs, the works. I'm standing by the door to the bar area of the building. The way this place works is basically cut in half, with one half being a pool hall and the other a bar/entertainment area separated by a wall with a door on the other end. I stand by this door a lot, because I can easily keep track of both rooms at the same time without needing to really walk all around the place. So there's a gentleman sitting near the door where I'm at, and there's a couple sitting at the bar across the way. The female is well known for acting out when she's drunk. From what I could see on the camera's side, she walks over to the gentleman by the door and starts trying to flirt with him. This guy has come into the bar for years and never has raised a hand to anyone for any reason. He's a professionally trained boxer, doesn't drink, and doesn't generally close out the bars. He rejects her advances, and she becomes noticeably upset. She proceeds to run over to her man and tell him that this guy has disrespected her and called her names. The gentleman ushers her man over and kindly asks him to make this woman leave him alone. Before the conversation starts though, the husband grabs the guy by the collar and starts driving him towards the wall. Well, chaos ensues as they didn't realize that he came with his 20 friends. He throws a couple of jabs at the husband and the woman because she decided she wanted in on this brawl. Well, the dude punches her so hard he literally folds her bottom row of teeth back into her mouth. This all happens in the span of about 10 seconds, so the security team jumps in and gets everyone separated. The husband and wife get taken outside, but we haven't called the cops because generally that's the last resort. So we're outside, this lady is bleeding from her mouth and the husband is visibly angry. She keeps asking me to call the cops, but I keep telling her that it's a bad idea considering the husband put his hands on the guy first. But she's not having it, so I call the cops. I can't describe how difficult it was not to laugh in this lady's face as she witnessed the cops put her husband in handcuffs and not the guy who punched her. She said something that I'll never forget, and I wish I had it on recording. "This is why we don't call the freaking cops." I very nonchalantly reminded her that it was her idea to call the police in the first place. I didn't see them again until about a year later. She had to get her whole bottom row front teeth pretty much fixed, and she still hasn't changed in the slightest. What a night. See guys, this is one of many reasons why I don't drink or go to bars. Lay off a third of the team and expect us to work harder? We'll see about that. So this happened sometime in the 2010s, somewhere in the UK. I worked for a medium-sized PLC in a small team that worked with sales departments getting quotes. I had previously worked in another team in a different department in the same company as well. So to set this scene, the company had recently had some issues with regulators, and senior management were either oblivious to the damage they were doing or didn't care. They were trying to save costs, but were going about it all of the wrong ways. So my team consists of 6 team members and a manager. We were fairly busy and often helped out on other teams as well, and they would in turn help us. So we are all called into a meeting without warning and told that due to declining work tickets, they were laying 2 of us off. They did say 2 people were safe, the manager and his sidekick, but they made us reapply for our jobs, including doing a test, following the letter of the law on redundancy, which had nothing to do with our roles. It also became apparent during the process that our company flat out lied, or at the very minimum, manipulated the data used to come up with their conclusion of falling ticket numbers. They dropped by 13 from year 1 to year 3. Bear in mind, it was a total of several thousand tickets a year. In the end, the company carried on and 2 team members were removed and made redundant, one of whom took a golden handshake. The other sued the company for various things, and won. After the dust settled, it also became apparent that the manager secured his sidekick's position, despite him being the worst member of the team in terms of work done and work quality. So in the weeks after, the entire team were too busy to help other teams, who then stopped helping us. So a huge backlog of tickets also built up. We also got threatened with disciplinary proceedings if our backlog didn't come down, but was also refused any overtime. During the process, we had also been admonished for skipping steps and getting quotes, steps that often took significant amount of time and served no purpose. So me and the 2 others remaining, not including the sidekick, who had his nose so far up the manager's rear ended and came out of his mouth, decided to do everything by the book, down to every last bullet point. This made the backlog of work even worse, but they couldn't say anything. One week we had another meeting with HR and sales director at our manager to discuss the issue. We all calmly said, "We are sorry, but we have to follow the guidelines and rules laid down, and this is as fast as we can work." We were also asked to start helping out the other teams again, as we should be team players. Again we said, "We are sorry, but we can't. Our workload is too high, and it's also not in our contract that we have to do other teams' work." This went on for several months, and management still refused to believe we were overworked. When it was time for the holidays, we realized they hadn't changed the amount of people allowed off from 3. So we all booked holidays. They both went abroad, and I decided to visit family on the other end of the UK. Of course, when the manager realized, a week before, he went nuts, and another meeting with HR was called. We all calmly said, "Sorry, but we checked the rules for our team, and 3 people can be off at any one time," and again stood our ground and all went on leave for 2 weeks each. This caused even more chaos at work, as you can imagine. The sales director after this hatched a plan to get the Indian teams, we had offices in India and other offshore places, to be trained up by us and to help us. However, they demanded we fly out to spend weeks there training them. Again, we all refused, as it's not in our contracts to be trainers or to have to work abroad. They ignored the fact that I didn't have a passport at this point. So poor old manager and his sidekick traveled out and trained them for weeks. Eventually, both stayed for over 2 months and failed to train them. We would send low-effort tickets to them, and they would screw it up, and we simply said, sorry, to fix this we need to do it again. So after 6 months, they gave that idea up entirely. Well, after a year or so of this, we all decided to all seek other employment, having found we all could not trust the company or manager anymore, and we all found roles elsewhere within a week of each other. So all handed our 4-week notice, and were due to all leave on the same day. Now the female member of the team, who was a very learned person, and she revealed in all our contracts and documentation we create is ours, and we can do with it how we wish when we leave. So we hatch a plan. In the final weeks we're there, we move all of our digital stuff to one location, including all my manuals and cheat sheets for my previous team. They both did the same with their previous positions within the company. On our final day, we bring in our own external drives, and with ITs helped download and removed all documentation and deleted the copies on the company systems. We all said our goodbyes, and at the end of the day quite happily told our managers that what we had done. He exploded and demanded it back, and we calmly tell him not according to the letter of our contracts. This is ours and we choose to remove it with us. We were later told by friends, who remained, that the sales director had a fit because no one was doing the quotes for him. Gladly, we all have great new places and keep in touch. You know, I've had a few times where I was working a job where there was some, mass exodus or a bunch of people got fired, and then the few remaining people still at that job had to work way harder. Except in every instance of that, I was always one of the people leaving or getting laid off or something. So I never really get to see the aftermath chaos of being in a very understaffed place. Because usually if I'm working somewhere with a lot of chaos or just making the work environment terrible, I am the first to just say, you know, I'm done with this, I'm gonna find something else. Well, now we get to move on to our question of the day. Or who knows, maybe it's question of the year. Which is, what was the strangest moment in your life that you still can't explain up to this day? This one time when I was little, my dad woke me up at 2 a.m. and he said, "Get ready, we're going to McDonald's." I was so confused and kept asking why, but he would never answer anything besides, because, or to have fun. The rest of my family, my 2 brothers, sister, and mom, didn't come with, and if I remember correctly, they were still asleep when we left. The play place was closed, and we just kinda sat there for an hour or so eating, then went back home. To this day, I still have no idea why he frantically needed me out of the house, and swears he doesn't remember that happening. But the whole thing was so weird that I kept the toy that I got from the Happy Meal to remember it by, that I still have it to this day. Because it's my only proof of this weird freaking night that my dad almost scaredly hurried me to McDonald's at 2 a.m. I have 2 thoughts. Maybe my sister crapped the bed and they were worried I'd make fun of her. Maybe they somehow noticed rats or something in my room, but were worried I wouldn't be able to sleep if I knew that there were rats and they needed an hour or so to get it out. Either way, very strange night that my dad refuses to tell the truth about, which only makes me think it was something much worse. I'm 23 now. If he said, "Yeah, your sister crapped the bed and we didn't want you to know," I'd have been cool, nice, good thinking. But he refuses to believe that it happened. What happened? Maybe your dad was sleepwalking, and sleep driving, and sleep McDonald'sing. I was T-boned in an intersection. Not a very serious accident, mostly just shaken up. I was out of state at college at the time. Minutes after the accident, my cell phone rang and it was my dad. He said all of a sudden he was consumed with an overwhelming urge to call me. And was everything okay? I told him I was in an accident. He has passed away since, but he and I had always had a very strong connection. I wish he would call me now, but then I guess it would be the strangest moment. Hey, maybe you just need to go get in another car accident and then see if he calls you again. I saw my doppelganger while driving in a parking lot. We passed each other going super slow and made eye contact. We both started laughing and then continued on. My wife was sitting in the passenger seat and saw him as well. It was super weird and really fun for whatever reason. We still talk about it 10 years later. I regret not stopping and finding out who the guy is to take a photo together. Yeah, to be honest, if I saw somebody that looked exactly like me, I would probably just laugh too. This is gonna sound absolutely crazy, and I've literally only told my sister, parents, and close friends about this. And just recently I've considered writing this all down, as my wife feels it's interesting. So back in 2000, me and my girlfriend, both 21, and our daughter, who was 2 months old at the time, moved into a council house in Essex, UK. One night we were both asleep in bed, both of us stark naked, as it was during a particularly hot summer. My girlfriend woke me up with a slap and said, "You're funny." I turned over because I was pissed she woke me up, and asked her what was going on. In her hand, she had a large adjustable spanner. She went on to explain how the coldness of the spanner woke her up the instant it was placed on her bare chest. She thought I was playing a prank and wouldn't believe me when I said it wasn't. I was so scared that someone else broke into our house and put it there that I got up and checked all the windows and doors. I then didn't sleep for 3 nights straight. The spanner was mine. It was kept in a toolbox in a walk-in cupboard downstairs. But at the time there was no access to the cupboard as we were having a new kitchen fitted and it was blocked. There were many strange and creepy things that happened in that house. The bath filling up with water overnight, to the point of the second I put the tip of my finger in the water poured over the edge. Also bangs, footsteps upstairs, etc. But the spinner was the one thing I struggled to explain. Nobody ever liked to stay at our house, and we only found this out after we moved. Family and friends would say they never liked it there and would avoid spending too long at the house. Roll on to 2006, I'm no longer with my daughter's mom, and I'm out with work friends for a drink. The girl behind the bar is giving me a glance every now and then, and I'm feeling good, as I think I may have pulled. She asked me what school I went to and where I worked, as she recognizes me from somewhere. I tell her, and she says, "You must just have a recognizable face, as I've seen you somewhere before." I tell her where I was from before my split from my ex, and moved to another area, and she says she lives there now. So we both agree it's very possible that we've crossed paths before. She tells me the road she lives on, which I say, "Oh, well, that explains it. I live on the same road." She then tells me the house number, 302. The same very house I lived at. What she says next will stay with me forever. I've been living there for 5 months and I hate it. Me and my boyfriend think it's haunted. I even woke during the night with an empty pint glass on my chest. I told her about the spanner and she burst out crying. We exchanged numbers so we could chat at a later date. A week later I spoke to her and her boyfriend and they said they had moved back to her parents' house. I never heard from them again. I'm 100% a skeptic and don't believe in ghosts or the supernatural, which must sound crazy after you read this story, but I'm convinced it must be something else. What it is, I really don't know, but even to this day, my ex thinks it was me who put the spanner there. I loved playing pranks on her, that's true, but how is that a prank? It's not funny, and if was, it backfired because I literally crapped myself thinking we had an intruder that night. You know, it's pretty easy to remain a skeptic about supernatural occurrences, and anytime you hear a story like this, you can just brush it off as they made it up, or maybe they misunderstood what they were seeing. But I always just have a really hard time believing that all of them are made up. I spent a night a bit drunk with some friends, sketching and sharing new ideas for an art project we were working on. We talked a lot about using a fire extinguisher filled with paint for a background effect on huge canvas or a full room, but we're wondering where we could get one for cheap, and if it would work as we expected. Around 5 a.m., I leave my friend's apartment to take my first subway home, and I crap you not. 2 streets further on my way, and in the middle of the sidewalk, there was an empty fire extinguisher. I took it home. It was such a strange coincidence, since I never stumbled upon an empty fire extinguisher in the street at any other point in my life. I was pretty sure I dreamt about it when I woke up later, but nope, it was still in the corner of my bedroom. Well, maybe next time you should wish for a big bag of cash. That was kind of a waste of a wish there. When I was 7 or 8, I used to spend Friday nights at my grandma's house, and she spoiled the crap out of me, so I loved it. One night, though, I suddenly had a strange urge to call my mom. I dialed my phone number. I mean, I knew my own phone number, right? A woman answered, and I suddenly blurted out, "Mom, come and get me." I have no idea why, to this day, that came out of my mouth. Like I said, I loved it there, and up until that moment had no thought of being picked up. Anyways, the person on the other end starts to sound panicky and says, "Where are you?" It hits me that this isn't my mom, so I just hung up, and go back to watching TV. So weird, and while it seems so minor, it stuck with me for 30 plus years. So if it was a wrong number, and you didn't actually want to get picked up, then who was phone? So I was at work several years ago, and a coworker had a massive seizure. He later told us he had never had one before. Everyone started freaking out, and a man came over and gently held him down because he was in danger of slamming into a desk. When the seizure passed, the man stood up and said, "Ambulance should be here soon, so my work is done," and left. The weird thing? Nobody had any idea who this guy was. We were all so concerned about our friend that we didn't even really register that the guy was a stranger until he was taken to the hospital. We were in a building that required a key card to enter, and it was closed to the general public. There were only 12 of us in that office, and he wasn't one of us. So who the heck was he? I mean, hey, if you get visited by the ghost of seizure present, just go along with it and be grateful. I had a dream once, and within the next month, everything from that dream happened in real life. For example, in my dream, my wife rearranged our room, which is weird because she hates rearranging stuff. And then the next week, she arranged it exactly like my dream. In the dream, I also got promoted, and then less than a week later, I did in real life. You know, I had a dream last night that one of my friends was a cat, and she was sitting in my lap and pooped on me. So hopefully that one doesn't do the same. This happened when I was in 8th grade. I attended a small private Christian school at the time. School started at 8, but my dad had to go to work early, so he would usually drop me off at around 7:15. I would then go to before care, where an adult basically supervised everyone who was early. I remember it was an ordinary morning. I felt totally fine and did what I usually did before care. went to the back corner of the cafeteria, laid my head down on the table and closed my eyes for a few minutes before my school day began. All of a sudden I started to experience this sharp pain in my chest. The best I can describe it was it felt like my chest was having a cramp like you get in your legs when working out or playing sports. I didn't panic, but I got out of my chair and quickly walked out of the room and down the hallway towards the restroom. As I walked down the hallway, the pain got sharper and sharper, and my vision started going dark. The last thing I remember was falling to my knees and realizing I wasn't going to make it to the bathroom. By the time I was completely on the floor, I was unconscious. I have no idea how long I was out. The next thing I remember, I was waking up on the floor of the hallway, and I quickly realized two things that I, to this day, find strange about the situation. One, the last thought I had before passing out was realizing I wasn't going to make it to the bathroom. Yet, when I woke up, I was actually a footstep past the door to the bathroom. And two, this was near the end of the before care time period. School was about to start, and the hallway at this point was usually pretty busy. Yet, when I went to the bathroom, the hallway was empty, and when I woke up, the hallway was empty. I went into the bathroom to compose myself and make sure that whatever happened wouldn't start again. After that, I went back to the before care, and on with my day. I felt completely fine, and to this day, that pain in my chest had never returned. You know what, I've only ever passed out like once before, I think. I remember getting my blood drawn at a doctor's office once, and like 5 minutes after they did that, and so I'm sitting in a chair, and I just start to lean over with my eyes closed, and then I immediately open them back up, but I'm on the floor. I mean, it felt like it was only about 2 seconds, but the doctor was like, yeah, you were out for like 2 minutes. So yeah, the weirdest thing about passing out is that it feels like it happens in an instant, but sometimes hours can go by. I told my work I had to go out of town for a week for my grandmother's cousin in Texas's funeral. Completely fictitious. In reality, I just wanted to take time off to hang out at the luxury home my friend was house sitting. Hot tub, full bar, etc. The day my vacation started, I got a call that my grandmother's cousin passed away, and they were going out of town for the funeral and expected me to go with them. Well, I guess it's a good thing you got the time off then. Well, that's all for the Reddit video. I kinda doubt that I'm gonna go back to doing these regularly. I mean, unless this video somehow just does phenomenally, which I kinda doubt. Mostly I'm just interested to see what actually happens with this channel, if it will actually recommend videos to people anymore. After I've been kinda off topic for the past 6 or so months. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed, and if you still have any interest in this channel, I do live streams every Sunday night, and they can be pretty fun. Faye, are you gonna open it?